Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate conservative. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Hoping you have a wonderful start to the month of November. I'm rocking red as Election Day is just about a week away. Folks, it's time to vote red and make sure that at least, good conservative values and good governing and good legislating, for the most part, comes our way in both the House and Senate after November the 8th, and hopefully upon taking office with the new session of Congress in January. But first, of course, there's always a lot to discuss here, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things in the news cycle here, obviously, October has come and gone, and what that means is that the brand new calendar on the court docket for the U.S. Supreme Court has begun. And certainly one of the most interesting cases when it comes to the U.S. Supreme Court, and obviously with a more conservative majority now, thank goodness, is looking at race-based admissions and whether or not it's constitutional. So let me just give you a little bit of a indicator here about what makes this story so significant. So some of the justices during the oral arguments did indeed cast doubt on affirmative action within college universities all across the United States. So a shout out to Allison Winter with the New Jersey Monitor for her report on this story. Now, the conservative majority this past week questioned the legality of race-conscious policies as it pertains to college admissions, as the justices weighed two cases that could ultimately upend the admissions process many colleges use today to try to boost diversity on campuses all across the United States. Now, at issue are two cases to challenge sort of the lawfulness of affirmative action at Harvard University, which is ultimately the country's oldest private university, and also at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, also one of the oldest public universities in the United States as well. Now, depending on the scope of the court's ruling, though, the outcome of these lawsuits could affect admissions at hundreds of colleges and universities across the country, and potentially even affect broader efforts like workplace diversity programs. Now, the oral arguments, which tend to last about two and a half hours or so, stretched for nearly 6 hours this week in one of the most controversial cases before the court this year. Now, many of the court's conservative wing, who now make up, thankfully, a 6-3 majority of the bench, question if it's indeed legal for universities to consider race and for how long such policies should endure. Constitutionalists, such as Justice Clarence Thomas, a conservative justice and the only black man on the Supreme Court, asked each of the lawyers who argued in favor of UNC's admissions process to explain how racial diversity benefits the educational experience of students. Quote, "I didn't go to racially diverse schools, but there were educational benefits. And I'd like you to tell me expressly when a parent sends a kid to college that they don't necessarily send them to have fun or feel good or anything like that. They send them there to learn physics or chemistry or whatever they're studying," Thomas said to Ryan Park, the attorney representing the University of North Carolina. So again, tell me what the educational benefits are to that. Park referenced studies that found diverse groups of people perform at a higher level and have less groupthink, more sustained disagreement, and more efficient decision-making outcomes. Thomas soundly looked unmoved by the defense and said, quote, "Well, I guess I don't put much stock in that because I've heard similar arguments in favor of segregation too." Boom. Justice Brett Kavanaugh asked how religious diversity is considered in the admissions process and why it has, quote, disparate treatment from racial consideration. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, liberals all over the country on social media and, of course, also in the mainstream media are having meltdowns as we speak. Now, the more liberal justices who are in the minority defended the use of race in admissions and argued it would be difficult to achieve diversity without any consideration of race, which I think is nonsense. But again, this is what liberals live on, virtue signaling and identity politics. Justice Elena Kagan, the former dean of Harvard Law School, noted the importance of racial diversity on college campuses because, quote, "they are pipelines to leadership in our society." Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson questioned if a college could consider the breadth of a student's experience without the consideration of race. Well, folks, again, great article there in the New Jersey Monitor. But let me just sort of start off by saying that I'm with the conservative justice on this, okay? Yes, I went to Rutgers University, which is arguably the most diverse public university, not just in New Jersey, but across the country. We've seen it every year on U.S. News and World Reports. But what's really interesting, though, about the defense by liberals here about race and everything else when it comes to admissions is that, once again, folks, everything doesn't have to be about skin color or ethnicity or race. And this is where I take to task a lot on the left, right? Whether it's insufferable activists that we all know about, right? We know them all here in Hudson County, right? Whether it's the progressive Democrats of Hudson County with Chiquitin, you know who I'm talking about, right? Hector Segarra. Or, for example, insufferable feminists and virtue signalers like Amy Torres with the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Or take your pick, whether it's unions like CWA, the NJEA, or just liberals altogether, or progressives, or the woke crowd that feel that everything has to be racialized, that everything has to be about gender or identity. No, it doesn't, okay? It's about letting the best candidates in to the colleges accordingly. Now, yes, does diversity help? Absolutely. But folks, college is what you make of it, okay? When I moved away, leaving Hudson County and moved away to New Brunswick to attend Rutgers University for my undergraduate studies, yes, I knew I was going to be in for a culture shock. I grew up in a predominantly very Hispanic / Latino type of area here in Hudson County, especially northern Hudson County. So I knew that once I moved to New Brunswick, yes, I was going to come across Asians, Middle Eastern students, maybe those who are African, South Americans, Northern Europeans, who knows? And I was forever grateful for that sort of, I don't know, I guess that exposure to diversity. But was that the end-all be-all for me when it came to college? Of course not. It was about going to college, living away, getting a good education, which Rutgers University conclusively proves that they deliver every single year, which is why they're ranked, once again, by U.S. News and World Reports as one of the top universities in the country. Yeah, sure, I went there to party, meet girls. I mean, again, what straight guy doesn't do that, okay? But my experience at Rutgers was predicated more on education. Whether or not I went to a college that was completely made up of, let's just say, Hispanics and Latinos, I still would have gotten the same education regardless. I don't put so much stock, ladies and gentlemen, into race, ethnicity, identity, because I don't fixate on those things. Okay? That's what separates, right, intellectually honest people like myself from intellectually bankrupt individuals, which we all know that many on the left have come to symbolize. Okay? So, folks, whether or not this case, and I would argue that the Supreme Court, again, with its conservative majority, and folks, and again, let me just be very clear about this. It's not so much necessarily a conservative majority, it's a constitutionalist majority, one that believes in the document as written, not judicial activism or legislating from the bench, which is what, again, people with law degrees who identify on the left tend to believe that that's their responsibility, that that's their duty to do when they get on a federal judgeship, whether it's in the Federal Court of Appeals, federal courts, or again, ultimately the highest court in the land, the United States Supreme Court. Folks, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of race, gender, identity, everything being thrown at us every single waking moment of every single day. It's exhausting, it's laborious, and more times than not, folks, it's old. Of course, those on the left don't see it that way because it's what they virtue signal on. It's what they campaign on. It's what they fundraise on. It's ultimately what they do to get traffic on any of their social media platforms. But for those of us that know better, like yours truly, okay, not just being a journalist, but also an educator, okay, you can't fool me, folks. Okay, I'm not like some of these ham and eggers and some of these, slapnuts that we see, in not just mainstream media, but here in the New Jersey media establishment, okay? It's not just about the degrees on my wall, it's about life experience. It's about seeing firsthand where, yes, diversity is a good thing, but folks, the pursuit of a great education should be the ultimate goal, not fixating on all these dynamics, which, again, doesn't do anybody any shred of good. So kudos to the U.S. Supreme Court hearing these two cases, and we'll find out exactly what happens, obviously, at Harvard and the other at the University of North Carolina. Could there be a split? Could there be a compromise? I don't know. But thus far, as far as I'm concerned, I like the way this conservative majority is deciding cases. Again, they're deciding it based on the document, okay? That's the way it is when it comes to being a constitutionalist. You believe in the sanctity of the document. Folks, it's a damn durable document that's been around for over 200 years, okay? It's created the Bill of Rights, which again, we live on, which is what our freedoms are predicated on, right? Whether it's the right to counsel, whether it's the right to a free press, whether it's the right to free speech, whether it's the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, or to be free from cruel and unusual punishments. Again, folks, and even the great 10th Amendment, which I love to, convey all the time, the importance of states' rights, federalism. So when we look at the Constitution as written, it's amazing to me that men in Philadelphia gathered during that summer, in the dead of summer, sweating their asses off with all of that gear on, and wrote such a glorious and durable legal document that, folks, to this day, still stands as the blueprint for any functioning democracy or any functioning republic across the globe. So I'm hopeful that these conservative justices, but more so these constitutionalists, rule on these cases the right way, because so far they've been doing a magnificent job on the Supreme Court. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, some local stories for your consideration. And ladies and gentlemen, as we're filming today's episode, I think back 10 years ago exactly today to Hurricane Sandy and the damage it did not just to the entire Northeast, but more so here in northern Hudson County. I remember it was right after Halloween, the furious rains, the knocking out of power, just lacking supplies. Gas was like on short demand, short supply actually. I have to just tell you, folks, it makes you wonder, how fortunate we were up here, at least in northern New Jersey, to not get sort of the full brunt of Hurricane Sandy, as many of our fellow New Jerseyans did down in South Jersey and along the shoreline. I remember seeing those images with then Governor Christie walking the boardwalks along the Jersey Shore and seeing some of the most famous landmarks just destroyed. Even up here, ladies and gentlemen, great landmarks like the Binghamton Restaurant, which was, again, if you remember it and just Google it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It was one of those institutions up here where we love to go eat and dance and hang out. But it was those images that really, really just kind of made me wonder exactly how fortunate I was, again, to live where I live. Now, certainly in the 10 years since Hurricane Sandy, we have seen tropical storms come up and down the East Coast. And let me just be very clear also, folks, because I get accused a lot on this program of being a science denier and denying climate change. No, I'm none of those things, because I do believe in science, right? I talk about it all the time. I passed high school biology with flying colors, okay? I took a meteorology course in college, so I understand some aspects of climate and biology and everything else. But certainly, yes, should we be more proactive in making sure that cities along the shoreline, or even cities up here in Hudson County, if you live in Hoboken or downtown Jersey City, let's all remember those horrifying images of the PATH train just flooded, where it took months to just clean out the PATH station in downtown Hoboken, right on Grove Street, right by Exchange Place, all right? Never mind the New York City subways, all right, in downtown Manhattan, where just streets were underwater. It was quite just a precarious scene for a lot of us. And I remember, certainly being without power for multiple days on end. Unlike other New Jerseyans who, for example, went weeks and weeks without power, I consider myself to be very fortunate. But again, as we sort of look back on the 10-year anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, let's just sort of remember how fortunate we are to still have our family after that. I know many of us, lost some family due to Hurricane Sandy. Certainly we lost property. And even some New Jerseyans have still not fully recovered a decade later. And it was one of those things where, we could put politics aside for a moment, because we all know that during that time frame was a very sort of hotly contested presidential election year, right, between then President Barack Obama seeking a second term against his Republican challenger, former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. And certainly we all remember that image of President Obama arriving down the Jersey shoreline, meeting with then Governor Christie, and certainly that hug and embrace that, for whatever reason, I think unnecessarily, brought a lot of vitriol that, quite frankly, we didn't need. Because at that moment, it wasn't about being red or blue, being Republican or Democrat, or being conservative or liberal. It was really about helping New Jerseyans recover, not just property, because a lot of it was washed away and destroyed, but recovering their lives, where many businesses were destroyed, where many people put their life savings into these businesses, where, again, the Jersey shoreline took quite an amount of time to recover. But you know what? I remember those famous words, being Jersey strong, and they resonate with me still to this very day. When it comes to whether it involves Hurricane Sandy or even dealing with COVID, here in New Jerseyans, we're strong, and we'll continue to be strong. But again, folks, some horrifying images that, you know what, every now and then I look back on and say, wow, I was really fortunate to be living up here in northern Hudson County as opposed to living down in South Jersey or even along the Jersey shoreline, where many New Jerseyans were not as fortunate as I was. So, folks, 10 years later, it seems like yesterday, being without power, being without Wi-Fi, maybe, not having enough, gas in our tanks in our cars, having to wait online for hours on end to fill up your gas tank in your automobile, or just trying to get food of any kind. And we get it. A lot of supermarket chains, even local grocers, engage in some price gouging, and thankfully, the Department of Consumer Affairs went after them accordingly. And you know what? People face justice. Let's never forget how united we were. And it's sometimes, unfortunately, it's things like this that tend to bring us together instead of driving us apart. And that's another local story, which takes us to West New York. And a special thank you to Daniel Israel from the Hudson Reporter for his exceptional reporting on this story. And a little more uplifting story to share with you here. The Township of West New York has issued 2 proclamations honoring locals for their contributions to sports both in town and around the major leagues. Now, Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez, soon to be the next assemblyman in the newly revamped 33rd Legislative District, and the Board of Commissioners presented the proclamation to sports announcer Jorge Lima at its recent October 19th Board of Commissioners meeting. Now, he's better known by his stage name, Ricky Ricardo. Ricardo is the Spanish radio play-by-play announcer for the New York Yankees and, yes, tragically, the Philadelphia Eagles, which no one cares about. But, again, for the Yankees, I'm really excited to hear that. Now, according to the mayor, he said, quote, "If you don't know Ricky Ricardo is the play-by-play voice of the New York Yankees in Espanol. I've known Mr. Ricardo for a couple of years now, and most recently he called a very important game in Yankee history in calling Aaron Judge's historic home run in which he tied Roger Maris and then subsequently broke Roger Maris's record this past season." Rodriguez broke the story, really, during the commissioners' meeting and spoke briefly on why Ricardo was receiving the resolution. Ricardo is not only an important part of the Yankee sports apparatus, but he's also a West New York resident. I think Mr. Ricardo represents our community beautifully. He has lived here for some time, very connected to the community, and obviously West New York is a community that loves the game of baseball. Now, according to Rodriguez, West New York is a hotbed of support for the Yankees with a vibrant past when it comes to the sport of baseball. As such, he felt it was fitting to give Ricardo this very important proclamation. Rodriguez went on to say once again, quote, "There are many Yankee fans in West New York, thankfully. We have a rich history when it comes to the sport of baseball. So I thought it was only appropriate that someone who represents his community so well and representing the New York Yankees and the game of baseball in general, all while doing it in Espanol, merited this proclamation." Now, Rodriguez noted that Ricardo has called many notable football events in addition to baseball, such as the Eagles' Jake Elliott's 61-yard game-ending field goal in 2017 against the New York Giants, and the Chicago Bears' Cody Parkey's infamous double doink missed field goal against the Eagles in the 2019 NFL playoffs. In addition, once again, to Aaron Judge's historic 60-second home run this past season, which took place in Arlington, Texas. Now, Ricardo was actually present at the virtual meeting on Wednesday, October 19th. He tuned in moments just before he would be announcing the play-by-play action in Spanish for the Yankees as they faced off against the Houston Astros. Mayor Rodriguez went on to say, quote, "We thank you for your time, and luckily you do have a hard out because the Yankees are playing in about 40 minutes. You have a deadline because clearly you're live on the air, so we're not going to take up too much of your time." So, folks, when we talk about the grandness of baseball, and baseball is my favorite sport, playing it since I was a little boy, whether it be Little League, still enjoy playing softball leagues, even played in the recent wiffle ball fundraiser on behalf of the Township of West New York to raise money for the American Cancer Society last month. So for me, baseball's in my blood. I'm Cuban, I'm Spaniard, I'm Colombian. Okay, so I love watching baseball. I'm one of those fans that, on a Sunday night on ESPN, it could be the Mariners and the Royals from Kansas City. And you know what? I'm watching that game. Maybe not all 9 innings. I might be doing work in my home office. But you can rest assured, folks, when it comes to baseball, I'm watching it whenever it's on TV. I'm a devoted Yankee fan. I am a devoted member of the evil empire. Make no mistake about it. Okay? The team that really runs New York, let's be honest, okay? But when it comes to baseball, it's in our blood, whether it's born and raised in Western New York like I was, and seeing, being privileged enough to see my alma mater, all right, Memorial High School, win the national championship some moons ago. But you know what? When it comes to baseball, we all love it here in Hudson County, and you can tell, especially in the township of West New York. And that's another important story for your consideration. And a thank you to Dana DiFilippo from the New Jersey Monitor for a very important report on this story. Now, apparently, abortions did indeed rise in New Jersey after the overturning of Roe v. Wade this summer, according to a new study. Now, legal abortions have risen 7% in New Jersey since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade this past June, even as they dropped 6% nationally, according to a new study undertaken to quantify how the landmark decision impacted abortion trends. Now, analysis by the Society of Family Planning, a nonprofit that studies abortion and contraception research, confirmed what advocates on both sides of the issue have predicted, that abortion would surge in states that protected or strengthened abortion rights as other states used the court's Dobbs decision to ban or restrict the procedure. Now, the study found that California, for example, continues to provide the most abortions nationally. Not a surprise, it's the country's most populated state, at a rate between 17,000 to 18,000 a month. Wow, Jesus Christ. With New York ranking second, with 9,510 abortions reported as recently as August. Now, New Jersey was sixth with 4,060 abortions in August, up from 3,790 the month that the Dobbs decision was issued in June. Now, New Jersey has 43 facilities that provide abortions in 2021, down from 50 in 2017, according to the Abortion Facility Database Project at the University of California at San Francisco. Now, New Jersey abortion rights advocates said that they expected the post-Dobbs uptick and prepared for it. Now, according to Caitlin Wojciech, the Vice President of Public Affairs of Planned Parenthood and their Action Fund of New Jersey, she wanted to say, quote, "To meet this increased need from patients across the country, we're looking at expanding health center hours, adding evening hours, adding staff, and making sure we serve the patients who come through our doors because we never turn anyone away." Now, despite the rise in New Jersey, Maria Tessay of the New Jersey Right to Life said the study did offer some good news for abortion foes, that abortions fell by about 5,400 nationally after the Dobbs decision. And New Jersey's spike was smaller than states, for example, like North Carolina, Kansas, and New York, where abortions rose 37%, 36%, and 12% respectively from April to August. A draft of the Dobbs decision, if you remember, leaked in early May. Again, all the hysteria started, right? All the insufferable feminists, all the cat ladies who stink of cat piss, wasted no time, folks, in virtue signaling from May on. All right? Now, also to say, publish a statement saying, quote, "While every abortion is a tragedy, the takeaway from the study is that New Jersey did not see the significant increases that New York and many other states experienced despite the draconian efforts of our abortion-obsessed governor to make New Jersey an abortion safe haven." Now, Governor Phil Murphy, a Democrat, has pushed the legislature to expand access to abortion in the wake of the Dobbs decision, saying New Jersey will, quote, "be a beacon of freedom for every American woman." Maybe not for every fetus, but for every American woman. Now, while abortions usually dip during the summer months, they generally have risen in the U.S. since 2017, an upward trend that advocates attribute to the faltering economy. Gee, I wonder whose fault that is. The pandemic, I wonder whose fault that is. Delayed childbearing, and decades-long declines in childbirth rates. Now, that makes 6% drops in abortions nationally since the Dobbs decision, right? And what makes it especially striking is that researchers went on to say that the study estimated about 79,620 abortions were performed in the United States in August, down from 85,000 abortions just a month before the Dobbs decision was rendered. Well, folks, again, here in New Jersey and across the river in New York, it's funny to me that abortion has been codified into state law. But trust me, when it comes to, as I mentioned before, the insufferable feminists, all these cat ladies that stink of cat piss, I mean, you can smell it from here, or all the way up here in Hudson County, right, or all across the state, right? It's interesting that it's been a great tool to weaponize and to fundraise on. Because we all know that, yes, clinics are still in abundance in New Jersey. They're receiving millions of taxpayer dollars, both at the federal level and also coming from Trenton. So when I see Planned Parenthood sending out mailers asking for donations, I'm like, ladies, you don't get enough money enough as it is? Really? Or whether we see virtue signaling from like these useless activist groups, like let's say Women for Progress out in Bergen County. Folks, if you ever need a reason to laugh, check out their social media. It's a bunch of miserable housewives bitching and moaning about things that they already have. I don't know, it kind of makes you wonder about where feminism stands today. But let me not digress. Folks, when it comes to reproductive justice, here in New Jersey, there's nothing to worry about. Now, again, as I mentioned before on this show, do ladies have to worry about what's going on in Alabama, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky? No, you don't live there. So for a lot of these insufferable activists that feel the need to, I don't know, bitch and moan about pregnancies that they can't terminate in states that they don't live in, I still don't understand the hysteria. I get it. Your body, your choice, right? Didn't we hear that during the summer? I know I said that when it came to not being vaccinated and choosing not to be vaccinated. But, for some reason, when I say my body, my choice, that doesn't mean as much. But that's all we heard since the summer months when it comes to the hysteria about abortion access in New Jersey and New York. I get it, folks. For the ladies out there, you may not like what goes on in those southern states, but there's something called, again, the 10th Amendment. It's written into a document called the Constitution. Maybe you've heard of it. Again, what they do in those states is their business. Just like I've said it before, do you think people in Tennessee, Alabama, and Texas worry about the fact that here in New Jersey, we have the highest property taxes in the country, that we take taxpayer dollars and put into a legal fund to provide legal representation in court for illegals that are fighting deportation, again, at our expense? Or the fact that Governor Murphy and the woke left in Trenton decide to create just another government bureaucracy by the Office of New Americans, right? Taking taxpayer dollars, creating positions to coddle illegals. Do you think that people in Texas, Alabama, and Tennessee care about that? No. They don't care about that any more than we should care about what they do down there. Ladies, I know out there listening, that's a bitter pill for you to swallow, and I get that. Okay, but here in New Jersey, if you get pregnant tomorrow, ladies, you can reconsider your pregnancy and terminate it almost immediately. Okay? After the summer, after single girl summer, or I don't know, just irresponsible drinking during the NFL season, and you wake up next to somebody you don't want to, guess what? A plan B is available for you. So stop the bitching and moaning and look at the bigger picture. Again, as I'm rocking red here, with a week to go until Election Day, let's think about the issues that really matter during this election cycle. It's not about abortion. It's not about marijuana. It's about the economy, inflation, and things that affect our pockets. But sometimes for some of the ladies in New Jersey, you know what? That's a little bit above their pay grade. And that's our show for this week. To check out all of the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media right here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to check out the Hudson Media Group on YouTube as well. Make sure you like them on Facebook and follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. New episodes of the 7-time award-winning podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Talking the Hudson, return later this month via www.blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. We'll have great guests and very lively conversation, to say the very least. Don't forget to like Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe on Facebook, and of course, follow it on Instagram as well. Make sure you follow me personally on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle, at the Fernando Zone, and also make sure you like me on Facebook as well. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate conservative, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, and as always, thank you so much for watching.